before I take questions, I just want to emphasize, I love the enthusiasm of the Senator for entrepreneurs, because it's the business that I was in before I was governor was working with entrepreneurs to help them grow startups and small businesses into bigger businesses and big businesses. And I have to say, the enthusiasm of an entrepreneur, what it takes to pick yourself up every day in a very tough environment, because every entrepreneur has a tough environment every day as they're building their business until it becomes something that kind of runs on its own. And so I'm enthusiastic listening to the set. Get outside the Chicago area if you live here and travel the state of Illinois and visit these businesses, because they're selected for a reason, because their products, their services are second to none. So with that, happy to take any questions from members of the media. Yes, sir. Charlie. So I think it's part of a broader effort that we have to show that Illinois is a place where you can start, grow, and build a large business. And the continuum of that is important. Now, like I said, I'm most enthusiastic for small, new businesses, right? That's what I love the most. But we also need large businesses, and we want to attract them from the rest of the country and the world. And we want the businesses that are already here in Illinois to grow. And so I've made it a mission to work with the large businesses to figure out what it will take for them to grow, and also to figure out all the things that small businesses need. Sometimes it's some infrastructure investment in the main streets of the cities that they're in, DuQuoin, for example, or sometimes it's direct grants that we've needed to do during the COVID pandemic. Sometimes it's helping people to grow from where they are now to something bigger. So I'm enthusiastic for all levels of businesses, but you're right, or the implication of your question is right, and that is we've got to look at everything. The enthusiasm I have, I'll just say one more thing, for the small businesses is also about, that's where the big businesses come from. Every one of the small businesses that gets started has the potential to become one of the major industries in Illinois. And we want them all to become that and give them all the kind of help and support and lift them up in every way that we can. And I think state government hasn't done enough of that in the past. And I've tried to make it so that the Department of Commerce, the governor's office, and every aspect of government is focused on whatever the needs of small businesses are, we should be responsive to. Winter is here. That's the first answer. We're almost upon the official part of winter, but it was snowing just a couple of days ago. Yeah, it's pretty cold outside, and it was very important to me to make sure to stand up in this humanitarian crisis, working with the city. This isn't a separate endeavor. This really is a coordinated effort with the city to try to make sure that we don't have anybody who's freezing on the streets of Chicago or anywhere in the state, but specifically focused on the migrants who are being sent here, the asylum seekers, I prefer that term, who are being sent here from Texas mostly by border politicians, not just one, but several, who are doing it for political purposes. We can't stop them. We're not trying to stop buses at the border. We don't have the legal right to do that. And we want people to make choices. They're here in this country. And let me say this and make it perfectly clear for everybody. Asylum seekers are in this country legally. They're here with papers. These are not undocumented immigrants. That's a separate important topic. But these are folks who have papers. They're trying to get an asylum hearing. They have to wait somewhere in the United States for that asylum hearing. We want to make sure that they have every opportunity to remain, be safe, be out of the cold, and so on. We've said over and over and made it clear, Chicago is not a place you want to migrate to in the winter, right, from Texas. And so we want, if you don't have a place to stay, sorry, let me be clear. I want everybody to migrate to the state of Illinois every day. But if you don't have a place to stay and you don't have anybody who's supporting you, coming to a cold environment in the middle of winter from a place where it's warmer and you may already have shelter is not a good idea. So I'm pleased about the work that we're doing with the city to invest in the things that I think are going to save lives and keep people safe for the winter. And I think the city is also stepping up in a variety of ways. So that work, that integrated work that we're doing together, I think is the right thing to do in a humanitarian crisis. That's who we are in the state of Illinois.
But that said, it was 15 degrees last night.
Yes.
There's still nothing built. Is this too little too late for 15 degrees?
That's not true that there's nothing built. A whole lot has been built. And frankly, the fact that people are coming at a rate that's higher than the city has been able to shelter, that's an issue that's created by politicians outside of Illinois, right? So everybody here is working very hard to make sure that we have shelter going forward. One of the reasons that we made sure to work with the city investing in new shelter space for the thousands of people who are either outside of police stations in small tents or who are at O'Hare Airport is, I mean, winter is here, we want to make sure they have someplace to go. And so we're working hard to make sure that that happens as fast as humanly possible, and I think you see work is already being done in order to put those temporary shelter spaces up. But one of the things I said at the press conference a couple of weeks, whenever that was, 10 days ago, was that we have some bottlenecks in the system that we have to flatten out. One of the bottlenecks, for example, was that we need people to move out of the temporary shelter space and into more permanent space. We need to make sure that people are getting their work permits, which means getting their TPS applications in and doing that faster and getting people to work, because ultimately it becomes an opportunity for them to live independently if they've got a job, a legal job in the United States. So we're working through all of those pieces of the process, but we've got to make sure that those are operating in the most efficient fashion. So the state has stepped in to try to assist in every way we can with the city wherever there are challenges and bottlenecks.
Transparency and $160 million. You commit to your office will release what line items will be touched. We haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that yet? It's actually in the budget. You can see that.
No, I've seen the 237 million or whatever was line item, but of this 160, where are we taking that from? We haven't seen that.
I think we've been clear. There's actually a piece that was published in one of the blogs, not yours, the other one that I'm aware of anyway, where you can see what that those line items are. To be honest with you, you're the only one who's raised the issue of transparency, and I think maybe you just haven't seen that particular article. We've put it out. I think what we're trying to do is use all the line items that are necessary at the Department of Human Services in order to fulfill the needs in this humanitarian crisis. People, if you want to nitpick about what's happening, also ask yourself, if you want us to delay, then the 15 degrees is going to have a bigger impact on these families because they're all going to be outside for a lot longer than you'd like. So I want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can. Obviously, those are going to be parts of a budget discussion with the General Assembly. We have made it available to the General Assembly to vote on if they wanted to have a supplemental in order to provide dollars for this, or to do it during the veto session, or in the regular session during January to May. It'd be great if we could end in March, but January to May, and so those are decisions that the General Assembly will make, with us going forward.
How important is the migrant center element to the state plan, a welcome center and the services that provide?
So the question was about welcome centers and how important that is to this challenge of the asylum seekers coming to Illinois. And again, we're not, it's not like we, are sending buses there to bring people here. They're coming because those border politicians are creating, the opportunity for buses to load and come to Chicago without telling us when they're arriving or where. Say it again. Yeah, I don't mean to be correcting you. I just mean to be describing for people listening that, when they arrive, we want them to go to a specific place. Sometimes they're just getting dropped anywhere in front of what we used to call the Willis Tower or the Sears Tower. I'm not sure what to call it anymore. That tower, which is not a welcome center, right? So we want to create one place for them to arrive and make sure the buses are actually going there. That's one thing. The welcome center's importance is this, that there were people who were arriving in this city who were being shown into temporary shelter when actually what they really wanted was they've got relatives in another state, in Minnesota, Michigan, and some other place in the north. And they wanted to get part of the way there, came to Chicago. Now they want to get the rest of the way there. Only if they want to, we're helping them to get there, either showing them to the place where they can get the transportation to go, or providing them with resources that they may need if they need to stay overnight for a night or two. But the point is that without a welcome center, without a robust effort at the front end, also to provide people with immigration lawyers so they can file for TPS and work authorization if that's what they'd like to do. The importance of it is, if people aren't given that opportunity, right, then those are people who are going into our system, coming onto the budget of the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, that don't need to be. They may want to go stay with relatives who will take care of them in another state, perhaps. So that welcome center kind of gives a logistics operation for, where should someone really go. Now, what do we think? About 10% of the people who will show up at a welcome center will want to not enter the shelter system, not be provided the services that we're offering. But that's 10% fewer that we're sheltering, and therefore 10% fewer, that are going to end up perhaps in front of a police station or at O'Hare Airport. So that's an important part of this, getting through the bottlenecks in the system, but only one part, and we've got to work all the way through this process. But again, Chicago and Illinois are responding to a humanitarian crisis in the way that we're supposed to, that Illinoisans believe in. And people who don't believe in that, come talk to me, because my family arrived here as refugees from another country many years ago, and without a little bit of help from a local organization, without the opportunity to send my 9-year-old great-grandfather to a public school in Illinois, I'm not sure my family would have survived or been able to thrive in the state of Illinois. Thank you.